This is an area that still the Muslim mind has not settled on. How much can an Islamic society be stretched? Because from their point of view, they didn't say it in these words, but reading about them and understanding them, if they were here today, they would say, we've been stretched too much, we can't take it any longer. It wasn't like the time of Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman, when the Islamic armies were dealing with a foreign enemy. That's different. But you tell people to fight for justice, their own people, they reach a cutoff point. And the explanation that these people had is, we have reached that cutoff point. We can't take it any longer. Not all the people are Imam Ali. In as far as his commitment to the truth, his insistence on justice, they weren't like that. They were the average, regular, normal individual in a crowd with a social multiplier. That's who they were. And so when the Imam told them, now, let us go and do what we wanted to do from the beginning and face off this renegade in Sham, meaning Muawiyah, they would listen, they would watch, but they would not respond. They didn't want to do that. Some of them also looked around and they saw that some of the Prophet's generation, they refused this war altogether. Whatever side there is war among the Muslims, said, we don't want to have anything to do with it. Some of them symbolically would go and break their swords in a gesture that meant enough is enough. How can we fight against those who say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadun Rasulullah? How can we do that? This was also a social trend in that society and in that region. Besides, there's another issue here that you should be aware of, and that is that Imam Ali had what we call today a policy, that all the revenue that comes to the Islamic treasury has to be immediately distributed to the Muslims. It cannot stay in the treasury. And this is one of the points of disagreement between Imam Ali and Umar. And Umar didn't disagree with Imam Ali on a personal basis. He put this issue to a shura when he was in Al-Madinah. What are we going to do? During Umar's time is the time when the Islamic treasury began to get full. Before, Muslims were poor. We were in poverty. So we didn't have to deal with the issue, what do we do with this excess money that we have now? The surplus wealth that is accumulating. That was not an issue. But during the tenure or the time of Umar, it became an issue. What are we going to do with this? So Umar put it to the shura of the Muslims. What are you going to do with this? Some of them said, you give out what is necessary, and what is not necessary, you keep it for what is called at that time a dawaween, which is the administrative aspect of the Islamic government. And then Imam Ali disagreed with Umar at that time. But now Imam Ali is in the position of the leader of the Muslims, the way Umar was at that time. And so now he saw to it that immediately, whatever comes to the Islamic treasury, it leaves immediately. And so people began to feel now that money was coming their way. And not only money, whatever was coming. At times it may have been fruits or produce, honey. It was even reported there was what came to the Islamic treasury was needles and threads. And it didn't stay there one day. Immediately those needles and threads were given to the Muslim public. Imam Ali would say that that room in which that money is supposed to be should be clean. Nothing in it. So this was another contributing factor to these people saying, well, if we have this revenue coming to us and we don't have to go and fight, we've had enough of that, let's live this life. Let's live and let live. And then there was another issue, and that was Muawiyah. He was sending these people of Kufa and Iraq promises and money. And that was another issue of dissuasion. There were contacts now inside this Iraqi society who were told that if you are neutral, or if you don't take sides against us, then you will have a bright future. And some of this money began to come from Sham to Iraq. And then these people here were looking at a larger picture. Now, public opinion began to feel that the Muslims were threatened by the previous two superpowers. The Byzantines now were threatening Sham, and this wasn't ignored by the Muslims in Iraq. And the eastern frontier, the areas that used to be Persia, now were showing instability. And Imam could not have a tight control over these areas. So all of this fed into a general perception by these people. Wait a minute here, how far are we going? Now, we're not trying here to say that the general social attitude at that time was correct. No. What we are trying to do is understand with accuracy and with a conscience the factors that were at work. You bring these factors into today's world. It's easy to look at this with the distance of 14 centuries. But reconstruct these issues on today's society and see what will happen. But still, the issue remains. If a people have a leader who is obedient to Allah and His Messenger, do they have the right to break away from him? And we don't have any information or knowledge from Allah or His Prophet that once that is the case, a legitimate leader and an Islamic society, that there has to be a break between them, as was in the making in this time period that we are looking at.